tell me, your feelings right now looking back and moving forward. How has that feeling of fraudulency affected your ability to move forward? This stalled
I
it?
don't I don't think that, that whole like, okay, everything that I've done for my career has been bullshit
Yeah.
and I'm not gonna find anything else. And I am gonna lose, I'm gonna get evicted from my home because I'm gonna lose everything because I suck to begin with.
Yes, there it is. Yeah. So
Oh.
how are you? What steps are you taking to kind of shake off those feelings? Um, I know one thing that helps me is like talking to people in my field that I admire and hearing that they have those issues as well. It's not that you're not alone, and that's what everybody needs, obviously. Um, are there things that you have done to affirm yourself and to be able to move forward with a little bit more confidence?
It really wavers like every day.
And that's what it is. It peaks and
And
valleys.
sometimes, like I can talk to someone and they'll remind me that like over the past year, like you've been miserable. And
Mhm.
the day before this came down the line, you were ready to walk away.
Yeah.
And that was on you. Like that wasn't on them.
Right. Right.
Um, so I try to like, I've been for the last like 2 weeks, like trying to like really, I don't know, chill, if
Mhm.
that makes sense.
Yes,
Because
of course. You're finding yourself. You're
yeah, like
trying to get
what,
back to yourself.
like if I can trust that like I'm gonna be okay, like financially, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, I mean, it's silly, but I posted this video on Facebook of this lady weighing penguins, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
she had all of these penguins and they all had names, and she told each of them individually to get on the scale. And she was so happy, and the penguins were so happy. And I watched this and I'm like, fuck, that's what I want.
Yeah.
I
That's yeah.
just, I want that feeling of how happy that lady was when she was weighing penguins.
Right, because that's the upside of your job, to see someone get sober and to be happy and live the life that they deserve, and you feel like you had a hand in that. And I think that because you're not experiencing those things right now, that's where you feel, okay, uh, all of this, why did I have to go through all of this and all these feelings of, that I was making a difference. You had to give that up and you're not getting that feedback in your life right now to kind of, make you feel good about yourself. And so you feel empty, and that's where those feelings kind of creep in, is, in your lowest moments, it's like, who am I? What I want to talk to you about is, because this is something that I really struggle with, is how syndrome plays into your sobriety. Because when you relapse, that's the first thing that you think, is that I'm a fraud. I was building a house of cards, and now it's crumble. People are going to be like, oh, well, you're just weak.
Well, this here's a when you say that, right? So like I got into this, I think when I started, it was like 2014.
Mhm.
And there were some people that had been doing this like longer than and that like trained me, right? That taught me how to do what I do, that taught me how to be, they're really mentors. And I got a hold of this woman that we've stayed Facebook friends, and I'm like, oh, bleh.
Yeah.
She was like, I got you.
Mhm.
And she said, because you are really good.
Mhm.
And she hooked me up with this like one private treatment facility that just had one location,
Mhm.
30 beds,
Mhm.
like super ethical. The more that I heard about it, the more that I fucking loved it.
Mhm.
I did 3 interviews. They were like, yes, 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 yes to everything I wanted, because I came so highly recommended.
Mhm.
And I interviewed so well. And the fourth interview was with the owner.
Mhm.
I'm like, psh, mm.
You're gonna crush
And
it.
about 15, 10, 10, 15 minutes into the interview, he asked me how long I had sober.
Mm.
And so like I gave like the story. I'm like, I spent almost my like whole life basically since I right before I turned 22, like living a program of recovery.
Mhm.
And he said, we have a policy that you have to have 2 years sober.
Yeah.
And I have like what, 14,
Mhm.
15?
Mhm.
And he said, so, we don't want to waste your time. We have to end it on this.
Oh, wow.
And like everything crumbled. It
Yeah.
just crumbled. And I had this option of saying, like, and I think maybe this is just having like so many years of recovery of saying, like, I could build my whole world right now off this rejection and the fact that my sobriety and my recovery sucks in my mind right now,
Mm.
right? Like, I'm terrible at it. I shouldn't be doing it. You fucking fraud,
Mhm.
like, you piece of shit fucking addict.
Yeah.
Or I can say, this is something from my higher power telling me that it's time to like find something else to do for a living and you could still help people when they need it
Yes.
because that's what you love.
It's that perspective shift that they teach you in AA, and it's like I like the phrase turning your eyeballs around because, you get to choose how you perceive yourself. And that's one of the things that I think that people with imposter syndrome don't choose to perceive themselves as worthy. But in this situation, I think with the help of AA is learning how to say, okay, this is not happening. It's something that I really wanted, but I'm not going to let it break me. I'm worthy of, and I know what I'm doing is helping people. So I'm just going to move on to the next thing. And I think that can be helpful for you now,
Yeah.
as well
And
as that perspective shift.
so, and one of the things that like, there's a dialectical behavioral therapy, which is like really if you take a look at DBT and then you take a look at the 12 steps, a
Mhm.
lot of it coincides.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
DBT was really easy for me because it's so much better than CBT. Because CBT, yes, like I have a therapist, we talk, we do EMDR,
That's
we
cognitive
yeah,
behavioral therapy, right?
right.
Okay.
But like DBT is like you have this feeling. Here's the steps that you need to take to look at this feeling.
Yeah. My friend um, Jenny called it addressing your moments.
Right. So, like, that's exactly what it is. So I have it, I've been told, since I was 22, I have a disease of perception,
Mhm.
right? And so one of the
Wow.
things that
Yeah.
I've learned to do over the years is I think about my best friend.
Mhm.
I think about my mom. A lot of people say like try to see you through God's eyes and how God sees you, but that's just too much for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I look at like my best friend, right? Would my best friend ever tell me the shit that I'm saying in my head? Absolutely.
Right. Right.
Would my mother do that?
Mm-mm. Because
No.
they love you unconditionally, and
Right.
you have to see yourself through the eyes of people that you care about, and sometimes y- either you're agnostic and you don't have that higher power, or it's too hard for you to imagine God. You have people on earth that do love you unconditionally, and you have to be able to see what they see. That's easier said than done,
It's
but
practice. Like it's
it's
practice.
practice. Yeah. Well, and I think the whole thing too of like keep saying it until you're convinced of it. Keep telling yourself that until you're convinced of it. And that's what you have to do. So how do you feel with your sobriety now? Do you feel, because it seems like with everything that's going on, not just in your life but in the world, it's really hard to picture things getting better, because it's happening so slowly. um, the crazy thing is that addictions and suicide are on the rise right now. And you're like, okay, let me get in there. Let me get in there. I know what I have to do to help, but it's not just going to be something that happens instantaneously.
I,
So there's a lot of waiting involved.
I think, it's I learned a long time ago, like, keep my head on the swivel, like, it's what they say, like, military terms or whatever, but it's also like I have a disease, and,
Mhm.
like, it's gonna creep in, and I've proved it to myself, like, enough that that shit will creep in, and
It
I will justify the enemy letting the enemy in.
Well, that's how the addict's brain works,
Yeah,
and
so
people who aren't addicts don't understand it.
no. No. And I have to say, like, over the last, like, 2 weeks since, like, they told me that, and especially after, that company was like,
Yeah,
there's been, I think, a lot more, like, creeping thoughts in, like, "Hey,"
that intrusive thoughts that, are
"Yeah,
telling you that you're a fraud.
you're a fraud, you
Yep.
suck, you're not good at this, might as well have a drink."
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
and that's so, to be honest, like, I'm like, okay, I'm, like, putting things in place
Mhm.
of, like, when that, like, pops in, like, I have to keep, like, my hands busy, like, if I make my hands busy, then I can't think about drinking, and so, like,
It's
I've
that
started
whole
painting
thing,
my nails
idle
again.
hands are the devil's workshop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, I've been painting my nails again, like, I haven't, I'd stopped painting my nails, like, a year ago, and it was always my thing, and I got this, like, color by numbers, app on my
Therapy.
phone,
It's
and so
therapy.
when, like, they come in, it was like, I need a constructive action to do, and
Right.
not, like, just like, "Oh, I'm gonna meditate." Like, no,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like a person that needs, like, something to do.
Yeah, me
So,
too.
like, when they creep in, like, I just am like, "This will be temporary. I've
Mhm.
proven that this will be temporary."
So are you ever able to lean into those feelings and kinda unpack them?
Yeah.
Good. That's a healthy coping mechanism.
Yeah, because I have to ask myself, like, okay, you're thinking about doing something that, is gonna kill you, and what little you have left right now, because your whole life has been built around your career for, like, a billion years,
Yeah,
like, you're thinking about throwing whatever it is away.
yeah.
Like, so where are you at? I'm afraid.
Mhm.
I'm afraid because right now my life is, like, feels like that it's in the hands of other people.
Right,
So if
right.
my whole life is gonna burn down, I'm gonna be the one to do it.
Yeah.
Um, but I just think that that's, like, just years and years of, like, fucking recovery and
It
step work, and
it is, and you did the work. That's the thing, is that you did the work, but, like, when everything's in flux and you feel like the walls are caving in around you, it's hard to remember that. And you're doing a really good job of reminding yourself, hey, I've come this far and I didn't come this far just to come this far. There's a reason for it. And if that's like an incentive, if I stay sober, things will get better. I just have to stay sober and keep that perspective and going to meetings. I think that that's one of the things.
I haven't been doing that, like, at all.
I haven't either. I went to one a few weeks ago and it was amazing. And it's like, yes, I know that I need to be doing it. Now, not that's not to say that I'm not doing things to keep my sobriety,
Oh, yeah.
but anybody in AA that's had long-term success will tell you that, it's only a matter of time before that's not going to work for you anymore. Even somebody like you who knows what it takes to be sober. Nobody is invincible, right? So you kind of have to own that feeling, and even though it's hard, doing hard things makes us stronger. So I think you and I need to pledge to each other and keep each other accountable. You've seen me at my worst, I've seen you at your worst, and so we know what that looks like. And
It is, and I think, like, part of, like, with, like, there was, like, and this might be, like, like, really off topic, but when, like, you're thinking about, like, I've been doing this for a long time.
yeah, yeah,
And as far as, like, even, like, service, like, I've been, set district and the intergroup and state chairs and whatever, like, I mean, I whatever, like,
you're at
all
the
of,
top of your game.
yeah, and but with that, it's like experience, like, what have I experienced? What do I see? What do I know to be true? And it was been extremely difficult, um, in the South to be know the principles of Alcoholics Anonymous,
Mhm.
um, to have worked and lived, like, the traditions and the steps, and I still do, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then suddenly walk into this red state, this tumultuous, awful political climate,
Yeah. Amen
and
to
then
that.
go to meetings
Mhm.
and listen to people talk about recovery talk about the steps, talk about the traditions, talk about the principles,
I
and I'm
feel
gonna stand
that.
up and be like, "Hey, fuck you. I saw your Trump bumper sticker. Show me
Yes.
in the traditions, show me in the 12 steps
Mhm.
where this motherfucker and your political thoughts lie in recovery."
That's exactly what I thought. I went to a meeting in Lebanon and I saw the trucks and I was like, this is not going to be good. But you know what? I did it and I was like, well, damn, we're all just a bunch of addicts. We have to find that
I
medium.
have to.
And it
I
is
have
hard. It is hard when you know that they have these crazy beliefs that don't align with anything that you believe in.
or
And
even AA.
even AA. And it's like, how? You don't understand it. And I had a friend that told me, oh, I didn't want to get political, but this was so in a broader sense, this is so important. She said, I had my son watch the Republican National Convention with me. And I was like, what the hell? What are you thinking? She's like, I want my son to be able to see all sides of the equation and try to understand why they feel the way they do. You might not understand it,